Hi, good evening. Welcome to Business Live. Coming up tonight, some oil marketing companies increase pump prices as diesel hits 14 cities, 18 pesos a liter. Meanwhile, oil marketing companies warn of further hikes in fuel prices in the coming weeks due to demand pressures for crude on the international market.
Forecasted to even rebound to $70 per barrel due to the winter setup coming on board.
Also coming up, the International Monetary Fund rules out the possibility of Ghana slipping into another economic crisis or facing spending overruns after the current program ends.
Has made meaningful progress in laying the foundation, for fiscal discipline beyond the IMF program.
Thanks for being with us. My name is Darryl Kwao. Details coming up. And first up, some oil marketing companies have begun increasing fuel prices at the pump, citing recent pressure on the city as the main reason. Shell, one of the major players in the sector, adjusted its prices yesterday, with diesel now selling at approximately 14 cities, 18 pesos a liter. However, the price of petrol remains unchanged. Another major OMC has implemented a 2% increase across all fuel products, while several others have informed Joy Business that they will adjust their prices starting today. The adjustments come amid concerns over the recent depreciation of the cedi, which continues to impact import costs and pricing in the petroleum sector. Meanwhile, oil marketing companies are warning that consumers should brace for further increases in fuel prices at the pumps in the coming week. Chief Executive of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, Dr. Reverson Opong, issued the caution during an interview on PM Express Business Edition, attributing the potential hikes to ongoing challenges with exchange rate volatility and global market dynamics.
Is forecasted to even rebound to $70 per barrel due to the winter setup coming on board. And we all know that from October, November, we're not going to enjoy the same prices of crude oil products that we have enjoyed during the summer days. So in line with the incline in crude oil prices, international products, for example, for petrol, diesel, LPG, recorded respective increase of 0.89%, 2.49%, and 3.37% respectively for petrol, diesel, and LPG. Now, let's go to the cedi. For the first quarter 2025, for October, the cedi continued to drop from 12.07 to 12.40, all right, per dollar. All right, so we already see 2.74% drop in cedi. At the same time, we've seen a 1.57% increase in crude oil pricing for the two windows that we're talking about. That is why we see the increase of petrol from 0.35 to 2.47 very accurate based on the dynamics that we find ourselves in.
And Doc, I'll come back to you very soon, but I get from your projection that based on the demand for products, we should brace ourselves for more hikes, even if the cedi was even fairly stable, coupled with the demand swifts that has come in because of we entering into the winter season.
Exactly. And then if you remember, I think 3 or 4 months ago, the chamber predicted, and the numbers are there. It can never be wrong. We predicted a plateau for ice and plats. Therefore, we foresaw that any effect on the pumps in Ghana will be based on forex, and that has been the case. Go back to our pricing outlook for the past eight windows. It's been because of cedi depreciation.
To our other headline tonight, the International Monetary Fund has ruled out the possibility of Ghana slipping into another economic crisis or facing spending overruns after the current program ends. Ghana is scheduled to complete its 3-year IMF-supported program in May 2026, while concerns have been raised about a potential return to unsustainable spending and fiscal indiscipline post-program. The IMF says there is no cause for alarm. According to Julie Kosak, Director of Communications at the IMF, reforms implemented by the government in recent years provide a strong foundation for continued fiscal stability. She made the remarks during a news conference in Washington, D.C.
Ghana has made meaningful progress in laying the foundation, for fiscal discipline beyond the IMF program. Key reforms, and I'll talk about a few of them, which are lasting reforms, which we expect to last beyond the program. A few of these key reforms are a revamped fiscal responsibility framework, the establishment of an independent fiscal council, and improvements in public financial management, which aims at really improving and supporting the efficiency and effectiveness of public spending. These are all very important steps in sort of ensuring that fiscal discipline can be durable. Maybe I can just add some details that the fiscal responsibility framework includes a primary balance rule requiring an annual primary fiscal surplus of at least 1.5% of GDP, and it also includes a public debt target at 45% of GDP. So that fiscal responsibility framework provides some guidance for policymakers as they seek to, instill and entrench fiscal discipline in Ghana, and to ensure that debt remains sustainable in a durable way. And of course, continued implementation of these reforms will be essential as Ghana moves forward and as the program concludes, as you noted, in 2026.
All right, I'm joined on Zoom by Professor Patrick Isuming for reaction to this news conference. Do you agree? Good evening to you. Do you agree with the IMF's assessment that Ghana is unlikely to slip back into an economic crisis after the program ends in 2026?
Good evening, and good evening to viewers. Thanks for having me. Well, I think, the fiscal framework has absolutely been strengthened. We have a new fiscal responsibility act. We're going to have a new fiscal council that will have more powers. And there's been enhancement to ensure that the fiscal framework remains sustainable going forward. I think that in some sense, I don't share the optimism of the IMF going forward. I think primarily because we have a history of being good at passing very sound laws, and then when it's time for implementation, we see that the lapses come. So I think on paper it looks great. We've put ourselves in the best position to ensure that the reforms that have taken place are lasting enough. But I'm not so sure. I think at the end of the day, it's Ghanaians who are going to have to enforce the law. If you take the punitive measures in the new Fiscal Responsibility Act, for instance, where if the finance minister commits some act, it can be punished. I mean, who is going to punish the finance minister? It's going to be his colleague, who is probably the attorney general or somebody else. And then you have to question whether an attorney general will be able to impose punitive measures on a finance minister or even if the central governor. So I think on paper, these look great, but the true test will come when we face the next election, and then the government is in difficulties. Then we see.
Yeah.
The other thing is that these framework primarily address the revenue side. The expenditure side. I'm not so sure that we have seen the lasting revenue measures that will ensure that revenue envelope is sustainable going forward. We are still waiting to see what the reforms to the VAT regime is and whether they are going to bring sustainable revenues going forward. So I think on paper, things look good, but it will really happen when the challenges come up.
Yeah, you mentioned true tests. I was going to ask what indicators we should watch to confirm or challenge that view from the IMF. Plus, which structural reforms need to be deepened to ensure long-term fiscal stability beyond the IMF program?
So I think, perhaps the reforms we need probably sit outside the fiscal framework. I think the overall governance architecture, perhaps the ongoing discussion around the constitutional review. We've had several cases where we've had very sound laws. If you take our procurement law, for instance, or you take overall Public Financial Management Act. You look at the act and you say, well, this sounds great on paper. I think it's just that when they get to the implementation, then we realize that our political governance and appointment processes and who even appoint the Auditor General and the politics all get in the way. So I think that if perhaps we're able to finish the constitutional review and do more, take some of the powers from the president and ensure that there's more devolution, that there's real decentralization. And we get to a stage where public officers can do their work without watching their back. Then perhaps, some of these fine laws that we have passed really begin to take shape.
So without the oversight of the IMF post-2026, how can Ghana maintain fiscal discipline, avoid a return to unsustainable practices? Yes, there are institutions that are being set up and various, if you like, is it laws being put in place? But then how do we ensure oversight?
Well, I think for now, it's important that we expand the revenue envelope. At the end of the day, when the elections are coming, the party in power is going to spend. So if it's in a position to raise more revenue and spend, that helps. But if we are still not generating enough, there's no way, with how competitive our elections are, a party in power will say, oh, I don't want to mess up the fiscal framework, so I'm going to watch. And we know that the parties always promise, and it never happens. Mm-hmm. So I think perhaps ensuring that we are raising more revenue, and then also having a sense of doing more value for what we spend. Because at the end of the day, even if we are spending within the limit, we are keeping a 1.5% surplus, and yet what we are spending is not generating the value. Then what's the point? We still be spending money on projects that doesn't give us the value. So I think making sure that when the government spends, we are getting value for what the government is spending. I think that's really crucial. Then, of course, because if you expand the revenue envelope, and at the end of the day, as for spending, the government are always going to spend. It's just making sure that when they spend, we are getting value. And then also, hopefully, we'll begin to see the punitive measures that can be imposed that are not necessary from the government in power. I think, so maybe, for instance, if the OSP is the one who is responsible for enforcing some aspect of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, especially dealing with the breaches, perhaps if the OSP is largely independent, then we could begin to get some enforcement. But as it is, maybe I'm just sounding too pessimistic. But that's because we've seen this before, where we have so many nice laws. We've had cases where there's a 5% limit on the previous revenue, and the governor will violate and nothing happens. So I think that this is where I'm so skeptical that simply passing the laws is enough to bring the benefits that we are seeking.
All right, we have to leave it here. Thank you so much, Professor Patrick Isumin, an economist. Thank you so much for your perspective to the story. You're watching Business Live. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Business Live. Minister of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare, says stakeholders with support from the ministry are working to secure cabinet approval for a special economic zones framework to boost industrial growth in Ghana. Speaking at the National Economic Zones Policy Roundtable, the minister revealed that her ministry, together with the Finance Ministry, is pushing the proposal through cabinet as part of efforts to attract investment, create jobs, and enhance Ghana's competitiveness.
Accelerated Export Development Program will help these factories meet global standards and find buyers abroad. Apprenticeship to Entrepreneurship will run and train young people for jobs in factories while enabling others to start their own small businesses to supply industries within the zone. Working together, These three programs will make the industrial areas stronger and create more decent jobs. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, incidentally, today's round table also marks the formal launch of the Skills and Jobs Initiative. These programs, I'm told, will train at least 15,000 young people annually across industrial clusters, ensuring that Ghanaian youth are not just bystanders, but active drivers of the transformation agenda. The Skill for Job Initiative guarantees that every zone will establish and get matched with capable and skilled workforce. I think this is really laudable. Our priorities are therefore clear. One, to provide a roadmap for modernizing Ghana's industrial base, attracting investment and generating sustainable jobs. Again, to equip young people with skills to become the backbone of our industrial transformation. And finally, to showcase transparent investment opportunities in key sectors such as textiles, pharmaceuticals, and agro-processing. However, given the many challenges facing the sector, government alone cannot pursue and achieve this vision.
And as we conclude the show tonight, in its latest episode, CNN's Marketplace Africa has turned a spotlight on Haptel, the homegrown digital commerce platform that's rapidly reshaping how Ghanaians pay, trade, and do business. Once a small startup founded in Accra, Haptel has grown into one of Ghana's leading payment service providers. At the heart of this transformation is co-founder and CEO Alex Bram, who spoke exclusively to CNN about the defining moments and philosophies that shaped the company's rise over the past 2 decades. We leave you with that special.
We enable digital commerce. Today, we go to businesses and help them with payments. There are a lot of businesses that need to collect payment from different sources. So from your traditional cash to mobile money to cards, and other digital wallets that are in the system. We serve a wide range of customers, from the very small micro enterprises spread all over. So it can be a woman roasting corn or roasting a plantain, all the way to very big companies that are providing utility services, gaming, entertainment, telcos, banks. Our story is largely woven with the story of Ghana. And if you're very familiar with the Ghana story, just a decade before we started, Ghana was one of the first African countries to open up for mobile phone telephony. That gave us a whole decade to build these systems and put up towers across the country to allow mobile telephony to begin to thrive, and allow companies like us in 2005 to start tinkering with bulk SMS and have enough of the market base to give us the momentum to be successful. Ghana is also one of the few places on the continent that got it right with mobile money and interbank interoperability, starting from as far back as 2007, I believe, when we launched our Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System. When we started out in 2005, the big idea was, how do we get businesses to leverage this SMS to become better and more useful to their customers? And we ran on that for quite some time until the SMS business really matured. To find new growth, we looked into other areas like mobile content or value-added services on top of telco services. And around 2015, mobile money was really taking off. And so we needed to pivot the business away from micro billing that leverage airtime billing and other things into now mobile money billing. When we work for public services or government, we try to bring the same mentality that we use when we're working with small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and large businesses. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't often fit with government. Like right now, there's a big debate about for when we serve small businesses, we charge upfront. There's a big debate about, do we do the same with government? And we are of the opinion, yes, we should. Along the line too, we've also been heavily misunderstood by the public about the services that we provide for some large public service providers. It woke us up that when we're doing public services, we have to engage more. We can't come with the lenses of private sector all the time. We would like to be a business that is bigger. Today we generate about $110 million worth of revenue, gross revenue in a year. We want to be able to step it up.